Greetings and beyond the new, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeremy Wormy, and I'm back with yet another video. And today we're going to be talking about the How to Train Your Dragon live-action remake. And in an era in which we're constantly getting live-action remakes of animated movies, primarily put out by Disney, that constantly bastardize what came prior, if not completely denigrate the previous version of said movies.
There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Audiences were really worried about How to Train Your Dragon, especially considering all the changes that they were making to the main cast of characters, primarily Astrid being played by Nico Parker.
But why?
So I really can't blame anybody for being cautious or wary about going into this movie. But what I do have to tell you right now is this is a phenomenal recreation of what came prior, almost being an exact replica of the animated movie. And I say almost because they do actually include a few additional scenes here or there to extend out maybe some characters' actual story moments or give you more insight into certain characters' behaviors. A good example of this is actually done via Snotlout and his father, in which they have relatively 3 scenes, all of which are just maybe a few seconds long, in which they show you different interactions between Snotlout and his father, and where his father really doesn't care that much about Snotlout, is somewhat disappointed in Snotlout, all for ultimately Snotlout's father to accept Snotlout. But I really can't blame anybody for being cautious about this movie, and I have to honestly tell you guys from the bottom of my heart that this was a very well done recreation of what came prior. With only a few changes here or there, the vast majority of the movie is a shot-for-shot recreation of the animated version that came prior, all the way down to the main story points of dragons attack Burke, Hiccup shoots down Toothless, Hiccup and Toothless become friends, Hiccup goes through the trial of fire, Hiccup doesn't want to kill Dragon, Stoic get angry at Hiccup for not wanting to kill Dragon, Stoic takes Toothless to try to get back over to the dragon nest, then big battle with Bad Dragon, ultimately Hiccup beat Bad Dragon with Toothless's help, and here we are, day save, everybody's happy. They even kept the overall themes of the story, ranging from be yourself, finding new paths, realizing that there's more to somebody than meets the eyes. All these themes are still well within the movie and are front and center because, yet again, it's practically a shot-for-shot remake. Only a few changes here or there. But one of the main changes that they did do to this interpretation is, well, it's more diverse. And it's already easy to tell you that by the main cast, considering Nico Parker is playing Astrid. But there is a scene in which they even address the fact that this entire island is much more diverse than the original animated movie. And even though they try their hardest to actually make this make sense, it does draw you out of the movie when they do have this weird focus in on a bunch of female Vikings over actual Vikings that were in the original movie.
The fuck?
But outside of these tiny changes, the big changes that people obviously are going to be noticing is, well, the main cast, where I've already discussed the fact that they try to explain how this island is more diverse than the animated counterpart. The main cast is obviously a whole lot different than what we originally got. I already pointed out how Nico Parker is playing Astrid, but even prior to this movie coming out, I was railing on Julian Denson playing Fishlegs. I was not a big fan of Bronwyn James playing Roughnut, and I was even more upset with Harry Traveldwin's portrayal of Toughnut, considering when it came to this interpretation of Toughnut, they changed the hair color to match Bronwyn James's hair color, instead of Bronwyn changing her hair color to match Harry's hair color. But when it does come to the cast, honestly, all but one of these actors gave a phenomenal performance. And I do have to give a round of applause for Gerard Butler's portrayal of Stoic and also Nick Frost's portrayal of Gobbert, because they felt exactly like their animated versions. They really brought their A game here and made it seem like they were their animated counterparts, and they just ripped them out of the animated movie and put them into real life interpretations of it. Heck, even Mason Thames does a phenomenal job depicting Hiccup, almost being exactly one for one. All in all, it felt exactly the same, and that's all I really wanted here. But I do have to point out the big criticism here. Nico Park is no lead actress. When it came to her portrayal of Astrid, it was lifeless. She only really had one or two main facial expressions throughout the entirety of the movie. And even when they needed her to act sad and cry over the possibility that Hiccup is dead, it really does look like she's forcing herself to cry and look sad when everybody else is just emoting naturally. By comparison, her animated counterpart, Astrid, knew how to emote at the exact moments she needed to emote. When it came to Nico Parker, it looked like a plank of wood was trying to emote. And it's honestly a shame because there are moments where Nico Parker does bring her A game and you like what she's trying to do here. But the biggest problem is she's just a plank of wood. She can't capture what Astrid was. And the grand scheme of things, that's sad to see. Where every other actor is bringing their A game and doing a top-notch portrayal of each and every character they are depicting at this point in time, Nico Parker is just Nico Parker and not Astrid. But outside of Nico Parker and this weird focus on diversity, the movie's top notch. It's phenomenal. Again, shot for shot remake of the animated version with just a few additional scenes here or there that don't pull you out of the actual story and are really just there to try to help differentiate this version from the animated version. Now, what I will have to say is the animated version is still superior. It still hits all those notes that you want it to hit and does it a whole lot better than this movie does. But this movie really did try. You can tell that they put in the effort. And considering this movie had a baseline budget of $150 million and roughly an additional $100 million for marketing, that means this movie has a grand total of about $250 million wrapped up into it. Let's say $300 million just to be safe. And considering this past weekend, it managed to get up to $197 million worldwide, I can easily say that this movie is more than likely going to break even and then make some money on top of that. And that's not really shocking considering it is really good. It gave you what you want. And again, like I said at the beginning of this, in an era in which Disney constantly is putting out live action versions of their animated movies, and all they manage to do is make a bastardized creation here that disrespects what came prior, this movie really does show you that they cared about what came prior. They're giving you an homage to it, they are paying respects to it, and they're not trying to change it and correct problematic issues. They're giving you a really good interpretation. They're giving you something that you're going to actually like, and I must give them credit for that. We're not looking at a Little Mermaid or a Snow White here. We're looking at DreamWorks yet again upstaging Disney and putting out a much superior product than anything Disney can give you nowadays. But hey, that's just my take on all this, but let me get your guys' thoughts on all this down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, shout out friends, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell for every time I put out a new video, and go live, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.